Welcome to Athens in Motion. This is our monthly meeting on November 24th. I'll turn over the meeting to Carol.
Hello, everyone. Anyone who's watching on YouTube, welcome to our November Athens in Motion meeting. This is also counting as our annual meeting as required by our bylaws. And so we're going to get going. We have a very full agenda, and I'm going to share the agenda right now. Google Chrome, where are we? Here we go. And so what we're seeing here is the agenda. We're calling to order at 4:05, Jake. Agenda additions, and anyone have anything to add to the agenda? I'm going to repeat again, Lauren, that I added in here other updates. Does someone else have their mic on besides me? Okay. Other updates from the bike TPW and Athens in Motion Chair. And Lauren, during that time, you can talk about what you want to talk about with the Firefly. Right now, do I have, can we move forward? Do we have an approval of this agenda? Or someone going to make a motion to approve it and we'll approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda and schedule.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes. Aye.
Any nays? Okay, we've approved the agenda and we're going to move on. Ronnie, I don't know if Stephen was going to be joining us. I remember him saying that, although maybe he's, lost in South Georgia world.
Yes, unfortunately, he did have something that came up and he is unable to join us today.
Okay, Ronnie, do you know if there are any public comments?
He did not mention.
Okay.
I can try to get his input in a few minutes and I'll report that.
Okay. Let's then move on to the minutes. Once again, Jake has done a fantastic job on the minutes. Great job, Jake. I read through them. I'm happy with them. Does anyone have any additions or would like to make a motion to approve them?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, so we've done that. The ayes win and we move on. We are going along. Okay, now we are getting to the Riverbend Sidewalk project concept, and I'm going to stop sharing this agenda. And Ronnie, I don't know where we were. Do you have anything to talk about here? And we don't have Roswell because I know we were waiting to hear about UGA.
Yes, I do. Sorry, there we go. So we did get a response from UGA, and UGA continue to be supportive, and specifically for the 600 feet of sidewalk from College Station to the greenhouses driveway, which is about 600 feet of sidewalk. The communication we had with them, it pointed to about $125,000 in dedicated money for that project in support, and also for easements, any easement required or needed. They're okay with that impact along that segment.
Mm-hmm.
Any other impact, the statement we got from them was any other impact specifically for needed easements and grading, stormwater ditches, that they're not in favor of that. Regardless if it was sidewalk or multi-use path. They like the connectivity, they appreciate the connectivity, they just have I guess a difficult time their position is that they're not very supportive of any concept that has heavy impact on their property.
And there's no rationale for that beyond we just don't want it?
Yes, as far as I can tell.
And is that on both segments, 1 and 2? Or is it primarily, my understanding when we first spoke was that it was primarily the section closer to the golf course, as opposed to the section closer to the greenhouse and life science complexes.
In recent communication with UGA, it's their comment is along the entire corridor.
So even from the greenhouses up to the complex carbohydrate lab, they don't want that.
No, they are supportive. Again, they are supportive of a sidewalk for the entire Riverbend road from Millage all the way to College Station. They cannot express support to any concept that has heavy impact to their property along that alignment. However, they stay very supportive and to their initial statement and their contribution of $125,000 towards that 600 feet. And I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but
Yeah,
that's
no.
literally the language I got from them.
I mean, I think we have to look at their support and those $125,000 in context of the entire cost of the project, where that's a very small percentage of that entire amount. And the other fact is what we're proposing within the right-of-way of Riverbend Road. Do we need their permission to do this, or would it be nice to have their permission to do this?
No, we will need their permission at minimum for easements, and we need their, again, if we were able to get large amount of easements, then we can go with less retaining walls. And the concepts or alternatives that show less retaining walls would have less impact, would have less cost impact to the project. However, property impact would be heavy, and that's what they are not very supportive of. So looking at retaining walls along the entire alignment is costly.
Question for you. Is that, Ronnie, from the greenhouses all the way up to Riverbend Parkway, is that all UGA land along there?
There is some private land, but for the majority of it, it's UGA.
Okay.
Honey, I know that we've been through this, but can you remind me which side of the road we're talking about building a sidewalk or multi-use path on? I'm thinking about the original concept that you laid out where you had segment 1 and segment 2.
Sure.
Yeah.
If you guys don't mind, I'm going to go through the presentation really quick.
Oh, sure. Of course.
Point out a couple things that we've added to the presentation. It just we're highlighting a couple points here to you, and then later we'll do that with mayor and commission work sessions. So bear with me a second.
Thank you.
Nope, no problem. Trying to put the window. Alrighty. So as you guys are aware, where Riverbend Road falls under the Tier 1 projects approved to move into concept development. We discussed this last time. We had some outreach in the past, along with a walk audit completed on January 16. The context of Riverbend is that this is a long alignment and a connection between College Station and South Millage. You can see here that there is a Tier 1 bike project shown on South Millage. There is Tier 3 pedestrian project as well. And there is College Station Road from Loop to Whitehall Road and Barnett Shoals Road. There's Tier 2 bike project and Tier 3 pedestrian project. All in all, these are, most of them are ways out. On this slide as well, you can see the existing bike facilities, and unique on the Riverbend Road that the first 850 feet starting from South Millage, there is no bike facilities. There's no sidewalk, of course, but the bike facility starts about just before the entrance of UGA golf course, about 200 feet from that entrance, and continues on both sides of the road all the way to College Station. The sidewalk and multi-use path alternatives are proposed on the right-hand side along the entire alignment. So it's unique that you guys understand the alignment nature and the fact that there's no bike facilities for the first 850 feet along this 7,300 feet of roadway. Riverbend Road, segment 1, it starts from South Millage with no bike facilities, no bike lanes, crosses the railroad with no bike lanes, and then crosses Lakeside Drive, also with no bike lanes. There is a short segment of sidewalk that sits on private property. It's not typical today that we allow that. Typically, sidewalk is on public property. And at that 850 feet from South Millage, the bike facility, it's substandard to today's standard. Today's standard is 5 feet minimum. So we have 4-foot bike lanes and 11 feet of travel lanes that continues up to the end of segment 1, which ends at Riverbend Parkway. And you can see on the top right picture. Segment 2 starts from Riverbend Parkway on the same side and continue along that side up to College Station. There are 4-foot bike lanes today there with 11 feet travel lanes.
Ronnie, can you go back to that previous slide? On this one, I actually just rode this whole segment about like an hour and a half ago.
Oh my gosh, Carol, I wrote it during lunch.
Okay. and I noticed, and I was coming from Millage. I think just for me being out there, one of the things as you come up from Millage and past the golf course and the bus where the buses all hang out, bus home, UGA bus home, you're actually going down a hill towards this intersection up here on the left. One of the things, if we look on the one on the right, it doesn't even show it, but one of the things I did notice, and I'd be interested, Lauren, in your feelings here, as you're coming down here to College Station, there was room here on the right, but it made me more convinced of the need for something significant. People were going pretty fast. There's a lot of buses that go up and down there to get into the UGA bus home, big Uber parking lot. And the shoulder on this right side was okay, but on the left side, it was quite narrow for people who are coming up there. And I did later towards College Station, there was someone actually, a young woman walking up in that shoulder, and it was quite a narrow shoulder. That was the middle of the day. It was not at 5:30 when it's dusk and people are coming up there. So anyway, I just wanted to mention some of those things. The traffic was much faster than coming down this hill, than I would have thought it would have been.
Yeah, I mean, I've driven that a lot. It's, 45, 50 miles an hour is common.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the posted speed limit is. I think 35 or 40, but
it felt, as a cyclist, it felt those cars felt like they were going fast. Lauren, do you have any reflections from your trip?
Yeah, I love it, Carol, because I took the opposite route. And so my impression was, man, this hill is rough.
Yeah.
Riverbend Parkway, it's pretty intense. It definitely has shaped my perspective somewhat, the difficulty of getting up Riverbend Road to Riverbend Parkway. So yeah, I'd like Ronnie, I guess I'd like to watch Ronnie
continue
presentation and
okay.
Lots more.
No problem. You guys have seen those slides, and with the details, including the length of the facility. This is the slide that goes over the sidewalk alternatives, and so it connects South Millage with College Station,
Mm-hmm.
and it's good to identify the beginning of the project and end. And as I walk you through the project and each segment. Segment 1 starts from Millage Avenue. It ends at Riverbend Parkway. Segment 2 starts right before Riverbend Parkway and ends at College Station. So there is an overlap, and during our the cost estimates, we did identify that if we select the entire project, there would be a cost saving because we're not doing the intersection twice. And therefore, I reflected that all in all, we've looked at 4 different sidewalk alternatives, including a 7-foot sidewalk with a cost estimate ranging between $2.7 to $6.3 million. And mainly this cost jump is because of major retaining walls along this project for some alternatives that we will show here in a minute. The first alternative for a sidewalk is a rural section shoulder, 5-foot sidewalk. It has multiple advantages, including this is the lowest construction cost for a sidewalk, as there will be no curb and gutter. So it would be grading, 5-foot sidewalk, and some drainage improvements in the back of the sidewalk. The sidewalk is further away from the road. The bike lanes are separate from pedestrians. Only minor drainage improvements are needed, and no retaining walls. The disadvantages: there is a large footprint that has a great impact to adjacent parcels, moderate need for right-of-way and construction easements, and high property impact. You can see the cost estimate breakdown for each alternative. For each segment. Segment 1 uniquely has that railroad coordination cost associated with it. And with that, I'll move to the second alternative. With the second alternative, it's a 5-foot sidewalk on an urban shoulder with curb and gutter. The advantages of curb and gutter is to give more of a higher safety to the pedestrians walking on the sidewalk. Cars are kind of delineated where they need to keep their wheels. Now, we do have a bike lane, so that's an additional safety factor here. So there is a moderate cost.
Hit the bikers first.
Yeah. Moderate cost for construction, bike lane separate from pedestrians, and no retaining walls. The disadvantages for this, is this option includes some retaining walls that will increase cost. Some pipe and drainage system will be needed. Moderate need for right-of-way and construction easements, and moderate to high property impact. And the cost estimates here are shown for each segment and also for the total alignment. The third alternative, this is a hybrid approach. It will help usually the department to pick and choose what typical section to use to reduce cost, because when there is no curb and gutter, it's a lot cheaper than placing curb and gutter and having to manage that stormwater with an underground pipe system. At the same time, we incorporated retaining walls to limit impacts and provide a concept that's more favorable to UGA. So we incorporated those walls and their costs, and you can see the cost increase dramatically for segment 2, for segment 1, and a little bit for segment 2, because we did have to utilize walls for segment 2 in the second alternative anyway with curb and gutter. There's really no way without using walls on segment 2. Pros: flexible design that optimizes field conditions, optimal footprint that reduces right-of-way cost in some areas, bike lanes separate from pedestrians, and reduces property impact. Disadvantages: higher cost compared with sidewalk alternative 1 and 2, requires piped drainage system to manage stormwater, includes significant retaining wall installations. The fourth alternative, really the difference here is that we're showing a wider sidewalk than a 5-foot sidewalk. That means more impact, higher retaining walls, and more cost, with similar pros and cons to alternative 3.
And that's the 7-foot for the whole length from Millage to College?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, each alternative is separated into 2 segments to give you guys more options, as we will share with you our available budget and what does that mean to a future bike Athens in Motion bike and pedestrian projects. The multi-use path alternatives runs along the same alignment, starts from South Millage, ends at College Station. UGA remains supportive for the amount that they stated. They did not state higher amount for increased cost for a multi-use path. So if we put a multi-use path, they're not, at this point, I'm not getting the impression that they are willing to pay more for the concrete that would have to go from 5 to 10 feet wide. However, with that being said, this alignment of multi-use path goes along the same alignment that for the sidewalk with an overlap for the two segments at Riverbend Parkway. 3 different multi-use path alternatives has been studied with cost estimates ranging between $4.7 to $6.8 million. The first alternative for a multi-use path, this is unique. So we're saying with this alternative, we're looking at removing one bike lane, not both, just one from one side, and taking advantage of that existing 4-foot of the roadway and building a 10-foot multi-use path. We also have to use retaining walls, but this concept does not show the use of retaining walls to the limits that the impact for UGA would be limited or minimal. There will be impact to UGA with this concept, and therefore we provide alternative 3 for a multi-use path with more significant retaining wall usage to limit that impact. With that being said, pros for this concept, most economical alternative for multi-use path. This is the cheapest among all 3. 10-foot wide further improves pedestrian comfort, provides separate shared facilities for bicyclists. Disadvantages, large footprint when compared with sidewalk alternatives. Increased cost compared to sidewalk alternatives. Bike and pedestrians share the same path. Requires piped drainage system to manage stormwater, and high property impact due to limited use of walls. Again, just to highlight that. The second alternative for multi-use path, this one, what we call it a redundant approach, but still we want to show it. We spend the time and effort to look at the alignment and impact, and therefore we'll show it and talk about it a little bit. This multi-use path adds a use path, multi-use path with a curb and gutter along the entire alignment from South Village all the way to College Station. This alternative has the most property impact along the entire corridor. Pros for this alternative, 10-foot wide, further improve pedestrian comfort and separate bike facilities option. The cons for this alternative, higher cost for multi-use path, requires some retaining walls, larger footprint with high impact to property. Bikes and pedestrians share same path, requires piped drainage systems to manage stormwater and increase impervious surface area. And we bring this up because stormwater and stormwater runoff is something that we want to pay attention to. So when this specific alternative has the most increased stormwater added to the area. So we have to be very thoughtful of what we are doing here. The third alternative for multi-use path, this is the first alternative for multi-use path with heavy use of retaining walls to limit impacts to property. And with that, I say the pros for this alternative, most expensive multi-use path alternative with 10-foot wide further improves pedestrian comfort and lowest impact to property when compared with alternative 1 and 2 for multi-use path. Disadvantages, increased cost due to extensive use of retaining walls, increased cost compared to sidewalk alternative. Bikes and pedestrians share same path, requires piped drainage system to manage stormwater, includes significant retaining wall installations. With that, we get to the slide where we show the difference between all these alternatives and the cost estimate associated with them. I know last time this was a little bit overwhelming, but I'll take a minute and explain what I've provided additional this time. For the sake of comparison, I added another slide to show the entire corridor comparison, not just one segment, segment 1 or segment 2. So the first slide, this shows the entire alignment from South Millage all the way to College Station. The highlighted red with the red arrows, these are more apples to apples comparison when we are comparing a sidewalk that has, little retaining walls with heavy impact to property. We want to compare that to another sidewalk that has that kind of impact to property with little use of retaining walls. But when we use heavier and more of the retaining walls to limit that impact, we want to show that as well when we compare it to a multi-use path. And that's what I'm doing here, or what we have done here for the highlighted alternative with green on all three segments. So I'll be more than happy to go back and look at each one of those and take questions. I'll run over the segment 1 and then segment 2, and then we'll talk a little bit about budget. And like I said, we'll take questions from that point. This is segment 1, and again, with segment 1, it's unique. There is a lot of retaining walls needed to limit impacts for alternative 3, 4, and 7. And you can see the cost difference with increased cost percentages for that as well. I'm not going to go over this too much. We've sent the information to you guys, but please let me know if I need to get back. And I know we have a limited time, allocated for the presentation. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Milestones for Riverbend Road. We have a work session presentation to Mayor and Commission on December 8th that we will share the voting today with them. And following that, we will be doing a public engagement for 2 weeks. At minimum 2 weeks, this may go up to 3 or 4 weeks, especially that we are thinking to start right after Christmas. And we just want to make sure that people have the time to, log in and give us their feedback. TIS Plus COC committee review is scheduled for December 14. Concept approval agenda is identified for February 2nd. And a memorandum of understanding with UGA will follow concept approval. So once we have that concept, we'll move forward working with UGA to put down on paper their commitment and how much and what is it for. With that, I reach to the budget slide here, and I'm showing 3 different programs. 2 of them are bike programs, and 1 of them is a pedestrian program. This project initially was approved to move forward with concept development as a pedestrian project. We were asked to go back, and just reminding you guys here that we were asked to go back and take a look at a multi-use path alternative that allows us to look at a cost difference and see if that's something our public and the Mayor and Commission would like to move forward with, and then get Athens in Motion vote on it. So that's where we are today, and this is what we're showing on this slide. For the TIS Plus 2018 Project 12 Pedestrian Improvement Program, we have broken down cost allocated right now for these projects. And you can see that we have available, including the UGA contribution on this project specifically, $4.6 million from pedestrian program money. From that money, if we go with sidewalk alternative number 3 with segment 2, for example, we have remaining $2.7 million for additional bike programs. For the TIS Plus 2011 bicycle improvement program, showing Cherokee Jefferson anticipated for Barber Street and expensed and encumbered, we are in the negative. It's, again, we could be negative 100, we could be positive 100. These are very high level cost estimates. But what's important to note that any improvement for bike facility on Riverbend would have to come from somewhere else, or Barber Street would be, compromised and until another TIS Plus. It's not the end of the world, but that's something you guys, that we're trying to tell you the story, what we have. The last resort, and it's available to us, and to you guys is 2011 project number 6. This is bicycle transportation improvement project, and historically has been used for projects like road diets, adding bike facilities, bike enhancement as part of the pavement management program. With this money, we built College Station bike facility. We funded the Athens in Motion master plan and other bike and bike projects designed and constructed, included in the pavement management program. So we like to hold on to this money and use it for smaller projects. You know, we're putting together our pavement management program, and we would love to use this money as, you know, we develop those annual programs moving forward. Historically, it's been between $150,000 to $250,000 for just improving small things on, like you guys have seen on Hancock, on South Lumpkin, Rock Springs that's coming up, and so on. Again, it's available to us, to you guys, to make a recommendation to use money from all these 3 programs available for the type of projects we're looking at on Riverbend. Let me see if I have any other. All right, this is more of a projected schedule. What's next? Just a reminder, Barber Street bicycle and pedestrian improvement. We do have concepts. We don't have cost estimates at this point. I haven't received those. But based on conversation I had with the designer, we feel comfortable about the numbers we provided, which is about $6 million for that facility or that improvement. And we'll be sharing that with you guys, you know, with the schedule, following the schedule shown here, anticipated concept approval in April of 2021. With that, I'll stop here and we can go back to any slide you guys would like to discuss.
Ronnie, I was reviewing Jake's excellent minutes again, and I remember that you had said there were opportunities for 2 feet of additional bike lane with pavement maintenance. Is that still true? And does that mean like a foot on for each bike lane, an additional foot for each bike lane?
So for the recommendation to do that would be increasing 2 feet on one side, on the side that we're doing construction already. So if we approve a sidewalk on one segment or on both segments, it would be wise to go ahead and add a 2 foot, and I'm showing it here on this slide. It would be wise to include within the construction, adding 2 feet in front of the curb and gutter. That means widening the road, generally speaking, 2 feet. When we come back to pave, we will pave and restripe, shifting everything around to provide 5 foot bike facilities and maintain the travel lane. The cost is quite, I mean, it would be an added cost to an existing project. It may not cost a lot, but if you want to do it standalone, it will cost a lot. So as part of alternative 3, for example, and segment 2 specifically, we felt like the department can make or feel like it's more viable to add that along to any segment approved or recommended to Mayor and Commission, and then later on approved by Mayor and Commission as an added option, added alternative. So yes, this is 2 feet, and just technically speaking, this would be saw cut, clean saw cut right at the existing edge of pavement, concrete base and widening for 2 feet, and then topped with 1.5 inches or 2 inches of asphalt. And once we come back to pave, if we do curb mill or just overlay, it would just cover that, what may look like a patch, you know, once that project is done. And if that's what we approve, and we've done this before, we have delayed a project from being paved a year or another year, 2 years, to just coordinate these activities to happen, so one of them happens before the other.
So it seems like these are 2 very different segments, and segment 1 is the sort of budget buster based on UGA's recalcitrance, and unwillingness to work with us on this. And so one of the things Jake had mentioned earlier was the idea of, restriping, widening bike lanes in segment 1, and then doing a sidewalk or a sidewalk, 7-foot sidewalk or something, which was much less expensive in segment 2. Is that still, it just helps me to think about these as sort of 2 separate segments. I also disagree that separating bikes from pedestrians and putting bikes on the road is a pro. I think we have multi-use paths or multi-use paths. That means that it's okay to have bikes and pedestrians on the path, and putting bikes in a bike lane protected by paint when cars are moving at high speed is not a pro to me. That's a con, and we haven't been listing that.
Sure. So the recommendations from the department, looking at the entire corridor with the available budget, it feels like we can make recommendations following these steps to move forward with the concept approval for sidewalk alternative 3 segment 2, because this one is supported by UGA, has the most foot traffic observed during bus movement, preserve bike funds for streets with no bike facilities, and as part of that approval, also approve a project concept with enhancement to existing bicycle lane connectivity along entire corridor from South Millage to College Station as follow. This enhancement we estimate to cost about $1 million. This would include widening road to provide 5-foot bike lanes by adding 2 feet of paved surface, as Lauren asked earlier and was explained. So this is what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
For segment 2 alone, the added cost for this option is $320,000. This is 3,300 feet of sidewalk.
Segment 1?
Yeah, segment 2.
From Millage? Okay.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
did I state it correctly?
No, I'm go ahead. I'm getting confused, but go ahead.
Yes. So the second part of the recommendation, it's the entire corridor, but we're saying the first A, as a part of 2, A is widening the road for segment 2 only for $320,000 cost. And why is that? Because if you want to widen the road for the entire corridor and you're not building a sidewalk, it's going to be a major cost for just another foot of roadway. The recommendation, which is not written here, it's actually written in the third part of this statement, is that to consider the remaining gap from Lakeside Drive to Riverbend Parkway, it measures about 3,600 feet, by Athens in Motion and Mayor and Commission when additional funds became available to address existing 4-foot bike lanes and lack of sidewalks. So a future sidewalk project would be ideal to address the remaining 4-foot bike lanes to be enhanced to a 5-foot bike lanes. That's just, we are on that opinion, just to reserve the money we have today and not spend it on just adding 2 foot off. And I don't want to downplay this, okay? I know safety is important, but if that's what you guys wish to do, you're more than able of doing that. I just believe the cost would be too much for just adding a 2-foot pavement for that segment.
Ronnie, what is the design standard for when it's appropriate to have a non-buffered bike lane? What speed, what posted speed limit is it appropriate to have a non-buffered bike lane by national standards?
I don't have that information. I can get that to you.
Yeah, I'm sure it's 35 miles an hour but.
I mean, we did discuss last time that, the transition from bike lane to multi-use path in the middle of well, especially it would be in an intersection too, is really far from ideal from a cyclist perspective.
I'm not arguing against that. I'm just saying, if we can put a non-buffered bike lane in, how do we make it safer than just paint? How do we provide some level of buffering, signage, striping, thermoplastic, whatever, to try to make it safer, because it really isn't by inherently safe, and in most places in the world they wouldn't do that simply because of the speed of the vehicular traffic is too high for that, and distracted drivers are fact of life.
Yeah, I don't.
If I may, yeah.
Who's speaking?
Go ahead. That was Craig.
I was just dittoing Mark in that, and I think when I listen to the commissioners, other commissioners speak, they're right on this. But adding a bike lane that doesn't have any bollards or separation for that fast stretch kind of goes against the guidelines here. So I do have that same concern, Mark.
Vision zero.
Yeah, it's not really a great place to be adding that in. Craig?
Yeah, I was just going to simply, from a fundamental perspective, just if our objective is to increase, pedestrian and bicycle usage, which models would show that results in that? It would seem like a waste to invest in something that's not going to obtain that objective. Like similar to what Mark I think is saying, in that why do this project if no one's going to use the bike lane anyways, because or very few people are going to use the bike lane anyways. So it's almost worth, if something costs more money, that is trying to get at what we're trying to accomplish. So just thinking about those from a fundamental perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to, I was kind of, as I was going through the year's notes about things, like why are we looking, this is originally a sidewalk project, and started looking at this versus multi-use path concepts because in the original, in the existing Complete Streets policy, it says to consider more multi-modes of transportation when the cost is under 20% more. And I think we're starting to be talking about a lot more than 20% more here. And so there, I'm just trying to remember, Ronnie or anyone else in here, we're addressing this as a sidewalk project. Is it somewhere in here as a bicycle project? What was the tier that it's in as a bike project?
So back when we presented this to our elected officials, directed us to go back and take a look at how much would it take to build a multi-use path or a wider sidewalk. And it was not just for Riverbend, it was for Cherokee, it was also for Jefferson River Road.
Right.
And that's exactly what we did. We provided that option and showed the cost comparison. You guys made the voting, the recommendation. The first time our elected officials went with a defined option, commission defined option for a multi-use path. The second route, they approved a multi-use path. So again, this is why we need your input and your discussions and your questions and your evaluations, because it does take a team to come up with the best approach. From what Athens in Motion is doing here is giving us recommendation, us, the staff, and elected officials on where to go next. And, I provide those recommendations. I don't want them to guide your decision, but just to inform you, if you're thinking of 2 feet of pavement, this is how much it costs. If you're thinking, okay, what's going to happen from Lakeside, from Millage Avenue to Lakeside Drive? Right now, there is no bike facilities there. There's not even 4 foot of bike facilities. Should we invest money and add an alternative to address that bike facility and make it 5 foot up to where it is 4 feet, and add a sidewalk there today? We're looking at the entire alignment from Millage to College Station. And that's what we were given the authority to spend our time and our resources to evaluate and seek your input, to give us recommendations that we can take to Mayor Commission, that we can back it up with hopefully positive feedback. Take the feedback, whatever it is, positive or negative, we take them all, we welcome them all, and move forward, educate our elected officials, and let them make that decision, the final decision. So that's where we are. It's not an easy one. It does take.
I have a question or observation about this. Who wants this project? Who is pushing for this project? I mean, is the university? Is it the residents? Is it people that bicycle all around the community? I'm just trying to get a grip on who is driving the impetus here.
How did this get onto the tier 1 list? We're kind of backing up there. How did it get in? Not just a tier 1, but how did it get into this first 5?
Yeah, I mean, I've had that question from the very beginning, and then, I mean, I recognize that there are issues there. I've driven along that stretch a fair bit, and I see areas where we definitely want to put in sidewalk and, want to improve the bike lanes. But it seems like we're just getting all this pushback from the university. So I'm just trying to figure out, why are we doing this? And who are we trying to help out here? Who is asking for this?
Well,
I'm sorry if you're asking me the question or the answer is embedded in the Athens in Motion approval.
Yeah.
There is criteria, there is evaluation, and that's why we're going after consultants to give us proposals so we can run these evaluations for existing tier projects and also non-existing projects, so we can identify, was this the final master plans or should we tweak it a little bit? This is a moving target, so there is also the community is growing in certain areas, may not be growing in other areas. Not all projections will be to what they were estimated to be. With this project, I did run into some notes in the street files, in the Transportation Public Works old files, and since we have done a lot of cleaning, so I don't know if we still have those, but there was a lot of notes about students walking in muddy paths or walking on the street to avoid walking on the grass, and also the ravines are very deep. If you ever walk that, segment 2, it has very deep ravines, and that's why I mentioned we have to use walls there, not to limit impact. It's because we can't afford filling in 25 feet of deep, hole. We have to use some retaining walls there. So there is historically input that led to have Riverbend on the first, if you remember the sidewalk gap program, Riverbend was there, and it was the entire alignment, because we also try to avoid creating gaps by building gaps, and by building a sidewalk up to the existing bus facilities or apartment complexes and not reaching Riverbend Parkway, that we would have been criticized for creating a small gap. Stopping at Riverbend Parkway, we're also looked at as if we just created a gap between Riverbend Parkway and Millage. So maybe these are factors, and we should reconsider and evaluate the way we evaluated our tier program.
Well,
again,
here's what I'm kind of, after what you've said and just putting all this together, I think our main constituents are going to be the students, especially in, I guess it's segment 2, the one that's attaching to College Station, the one that's
College Station to Riverbend Parkway. Yep.
Okay, so our constituents are the students and maybe the staff of the university. Okay, so the university really has a pretty high stake in this, and I guess where I'm getting hung up is that I don't feel like they're very enthusiastic about working with us to really help them with a safety problem that affects their students, their employees. So I'm really having a hard time with that because, you know, I see the need, I see the dangers. I just wish that the university were acting a little bit more like they could come to the negotiating table and talk to us a bit.
I mean, I'd be very willing to be supportive of a $1.3 million, whatever the lower cost option is, sidewalk in segment 1 that would serve those students because there are students walking there and there more would walk if it was safer. I'm not very supportive of a $3.5, $4 million, $5 million project to do the same thing when the university is the main roadblock and they're the ones that are benefiting. I mean, that's
Right.
I can't see that making sense. And because, and I also always think about those are $3 or $4 million, which is a lot of money that could be spent elsewhere where there is a desire, where there are active users, where there are people walking and biking who want to do it more safely. And this is not the only place in Athens where you have that situation.
All right. Just to adopt a polemical point of view here, I think there's only one option here because, first of all, we don't have enough money in the bike budget to pay 50-50, the 50-50 for a multi-use path on this. So all the multi-use paths are out unless we find some other source of funding. Those are all out. UGA owns all the land and would have to grant easements for anything else. So anything other than sidewalk alternative number 3 is out. So really we're left with sidewalk alternative number 3 on segment 2 or on segments 1 and 2. And the plus side of that is that, the sidewalk alternative number 3 on segment 2 is $1.8 million. UGA would contribute $125,000. So it's actually $1.675 million. And unless I don't see them, especially under the current administration, prioritizing alternative transportation to the extent that they'd be willing to forego be willing to have, absorb that property impact that they're objecting to. So of these 7 possible alternatives, there's really only one that is doable right now. And then the question is, do we want to do that? And my thoughts about the bike connectivity. So Lauren really made me pause because if Lauren thinks that hill is terrible, then your average student bicyclist is going to think it's even more terrible. So unless e-assist bikes become the norm, I don't think we'll see a lot of bike traffic on this road for a considerable period of time. And so I don't like the idea of unprotected bike facilities on a high speed limit road, but I do think that wider bike lanes would at least be something. And so, I mean, if I were going to make a motion, it would be to go with sidewalk alternative number 3 on segment 2 and recommend repavement during the repavement process, looking at widening bike lanes and maybe other bike alternative options.
Mm-hmm. And if you were making a motion, I'd second that one.
I would.
Yeah, I would too.
And if I may, Jake, thank you for your input. Just one thing to point out: the added 2-foot pavement is recommended from the department to be added to the construction project of the sidewalk. It would not be during pavement. What's going to happen during pavement? From the time we construct additional 2 feet of paved surface until the time we pave, we will have 6-foot bicycle facility. And then once we pave, we'll adjust everything in the roadway. We'll shift it, and that cost for shifting and restriping would be paid for by the pavement program. There's no need to include the bike facility or bike programs. The only element that the bike programs may pay is for added enhancement, like the green paint, the signage, and I don't anticipate that to be a lot. Usually they're not in hundreds of thousands. However, what would be needed is some signage and transition at Riverbend Parkway. So that there should be some transition there just to highlight. And I'm not sure how we're gonna do the stop sign at this point to connect the bike facility on Riverbend Parkway and with Riverbend Road. So that cost there would have to be worked out in the pavement program. So there is overlap, and I don't want to define it today. It's really is gonna depends on the designer and how they see that work happen, staging, construction. But for that little segment of 2 feet, pavement widening would happen during the construction of the project and as part of the sidewalk, if the sidewalk alternative is recommended.
So is what you're saying that if we only went ahead with section 2, then the widening would only happen on that portion of the road?
Yes.
So, so Ronnie, thanks. I had one question. What's the current lane width on this road?
11 feet.
It's 11 feet already. Okay.
Yes.
So there's not a 4-foot bike lane though.
It's kind of a bike lane.
It's not 4 feet.
It's kind of. It's like, oh, is it a
not 4 feet though? That's what I'm saying. Ronnie, I thought you said there's currently a 4-foot bike lane. There's not though.
I've measured it, not every 20 feet, but I've measured it in multiple locations. I recall measuring it by the golf course. I stopped by the transit facility. I stopped by Riverbend Parkway. Now, I did get 4 feet, but sometimes there has not been a lot of emphasis when paint or marking took place. So they may given the travel lane more than 11 feet, 11 feet, 4 inches, and not center it on that 11 feet mark. But again, when we restripe, and just a reminder here, when we restripe a road that has bike facility, we focus on providing 4 feet for bike facility, even if we have to compromise the 11-foot travel lane down to 10.5 feet. So we've done that compromise on Baxter. We have limited roadway when we paved Baxter last year, and we did that. So that would be the same thing here. We will look at the existing pavement and see how much we will need to increase. We're not going to just put 2 feet. We're going to measure it, make sure there's 11 feet for travel lane, and we'll make a decision on what the turn lane would be as well in places where there's turn lanes, and make sure we have got 5-foot bike lanes. So if that means 18 inches of paved surface or 24 inches of additional paved surface.
Okay, I'm going to butt in here and thank you for all this wonderful information, Ronnie, and ask if we have a motion to vote for something. It's 5:03 right now, and I want to. Jake, you had a motion. Did you want to adjust that? Do you want to repeat that again and what we want to vote for?
Okay. I move that we recommend sidewalk alternative number 3 for segment 2 only.
No, because I remember asking about a lockbox.
Aaron, we can.
And they said I could get a tiny little one that wasn't big enough to put a title in, so I didn't do it.
Aaron.
Mute him.
I can't mute him. I'm trying to figure that out.
I don't think I did.
Where's Aaron?
I mute him. Aaron.
Yeah. There we go.
Get it? Yeah, he's off. Okay.
It.
Okay. Family issues.
Question clarification. We're not doing anything with segment 1 with this motion. Nothing with segment 1.
With this motion, correct. But I think our recommendations need to have justifications appended to them based on our experience with the Cherokee Road multi-use path, regardless of whether this happens when Carol is on the commission or not, because that was really frustrating for me. And I still am frustrated by the fact that it's not part of the 50-50 and it came out of our bike budget, which is already a pittance. So the motion is to recommend sidewalk alternative number 3 for segment 2 only, with the recommendation that improved bike facilities be a consideration during when this road comes up in the repavement program.
Okay.
And if anyone wants to add anything to that,
Can I see what, Ronnie, can I see what the cost for segment 1 is? Alternative 3. I just want to see what I
Just for formality, I'll second that motion.
okay. So
who is that second from for the minutes? I couldn't see. Craig?
yeah, I think it was from Craig. It
Yeah,
gets,
sorry, it's correct. Yeah.
so we're talking about talking about this green number 3 here, right? For segment 2?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
Can I see what that cost is for segment 1? Can you segment 1? Oh, that's a lot of money. No, that's what segment 1. That's 1 million. Okay, that was there. Minimize. Wait, what happened? Okay, where are we going? Riverbend. All right. So we want to go vote on that. And Jake, can I ask? Let's have the vote, and then I'm going to ask if someone can write that up as well, because that needs a lot of explanation. Do we want to have we had a motion and I'm here. Let's just vote on that. Okay. Let's, Ronnie, could you hide the screen away? Okay. Just say us all people up here. Okay. All right. So we're voting on Jake's motion to recommend alternate 3, sidewalk 3 for section 2 from Riverbend to College Station, with nothing done at the present time for section 1. And is that what we're recommending? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
With a follow-up, okay, let's all in favor, aye.
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 Aye, okay.
Do we need to include in that statement something about segment 1? I mean, I think we need to be pretty clear why we're not recommending anything for segment 1, and that we also encourage Transportation and Public Works to take into account the need for improved bicycle facilities when they do repaving and restriping work on segment 1.
Okay, exactly, Mark. And for that reason, do you or Jake or someone else, would they like to write that up in a statement?
Damn. Yes, I will. Sure.
I tricked you.
I know you don't have anything else to do, saving
Yeah.
from keeping track of COVID cases around the world, but from the macro to the micro. Okay, so we have that taken care of. All right, let's, and you're going to write that up and share that with us for approval, so we put and send on. Ronnie, you're going to go over this North Chase Street thing, project concept design. How much time do you think you need for that?
This should not take but 2 minutes, unless
Okay.
you guys have a lot of questions.
Okay. Yeah, there's not going to be a vote on this. I thought there was a vote on it, so there's no vote on this. So Ronnie, we're giving you your 5 minutes.
Alrighty, sounds good. That if I can find my PowerPoint presentation. There we go. This part, and I need to show the other one. So Chase Street corridor. Just quick history, we recently have shared with you guys this presentation that was given to Mayor and Commission prior to their Chase Street corridor plans approval. The agenda did not state approval of corridor plans. It approved, it accepted corridor plans. And because they are regional, meaning they include other plans in the area, including Barber Street multi-use path and Anita Street multi-use path, which is our 2 different tiered projects. Barber Street, as you guys know, I just mentioned it earlier, it's going through concept development, and you guys will be reviewing the presentation and making action on it. So, Mayor and Commission,
Your typing is loud.
Mayor and Commission historically have, expressed the desire to run things by you guys and just discuss them and address any concerns you may have. And if you had no concerns, we just say, we brought this project up to Athens in Motion, we discussed it, we talked about the history, and we're moving forward. There's no voting. And that's what we're doing here. I apologize for the 90-degree flipped image here for Barber and for Chase. And again, I'll go through these 3 different slides and then go into more specific of what was approved as part of Chase Street corridor plan. One major traffic failures, and when we talk about level of services, was noted on the on and off ramps with GDOT. So we've looked at a high level concept, which we call corridor plans, and put that together as part of that agenda was approved. And what I'm showing here is just the high level concepts, that the concepts are not approved. It's just, this is a sketch as they call it in the engineering term. These are some level of service based on build and no build conditions. And we can see that if there is no build in 2027, we'll get to a level of F for that Chase Street and State Route 10 inner loop and ramps. And that's something we're trying to avoid by planning ahead. Shortly after this presentation was given to Mayor and Commission, there was an opportunity to pursue a grant with the state and the feds, TAP, transportation projects, and we were fortunate to be awarded the grant, and this grant goes into stages. So first have given us notification and authorization that the money for design is there for Athens-Clarke County to pursue that funding. And therefore, that's where we are today, is to move forward with the corridor plans and develop them into concept, following by preliminary plans and then final plans. Sometimes between preliminary and final, we will seek additional funding, including up to about $6 million, a little bit over $6 million from the feds that requires 20% local match. The money for this project is coming from an intersection improvement program, SUSPLOS project, and therefore we're going in front of the COC to also, actually we've gone in front of the COC and show them the same thing we've showed you guys.
That's SPLOS 2011?
Yes. And with, that the high level plans also include roundabout on the Oneida Street. And I'm showing this slide here specifically to show that within the Chase Street improvements, we'll be building a multi-use path facility within that roundabout. And you see it here in a dark gray showing on Chase Street, and the most of it is on Oneida Street. So that's the plan, and everything else you see is in lighter gray is sidewalks for connectivity. The bike facility would be limited to this intersection improvement and transition in the addition of Share and Share the Road signage along the entire corridor, starting from CSX Railroad Bridge all the way up to Newton Bridge. This is CSX, and I believe Boulevard was also discussed then. Anyway, this is the presentation, and I didn't have really plans to share the entire presentation. We did share the entire presentation with you guys, so you're aware of what took place back in 2018.
Thanks, Ronnie. When we look at the Chase Street, there are what looks like a middle lane that's kind of a pseudo turn lane in the yellow striping. And we see that on Oneida and in various places. You see it here on Chase. Why do you need a turn lane when you have a roundabout? I don't understand that.
That's a good question. And, it's, again, these are high level. We did not
Okay.
dive too deep in there. Now,
Gotcha.
the fact that this is heavily industrial, sometimes those tractor trailer, when we reduced, if and you're welcome to read the agenda, it has a lot of history and very good history, and it goes all the way back to 2016. In 2016, the department did a software kind of run to see if we do a road diet on this segment, the entire segment of Chase Street. If we reduce or if we eliminate the turn lanes and add bike lanes as an option, how would that be, or how would the intersections function? Now, the software did not take place the distance between intersections. It considered those intersections meeting current standards. Those intersections and where they are with their permitted right in, right out, or you can enter from any side you want to today on, for example, Rose Street. So talking between, theory and practice, this is a great example where it did not succeed. Where the software said it should be great, it should work. When we implemented taking out those turn lanes, it failed, and it failed drastically because this is a main route for tractor trailers. And when they trying to make a turn into a driveway, they block the entire travel lane, and vehicles, while they can go on a bike facility, it's not recommended to go on a bike lane, they couldn't go. So you get this truck standing in the middle of the road, blocking the road. It backs traffic up all the way into the loop. It was a nightmare of calls into the department. It, of course, the traffic engineering division, not my office, but it was tough, and we reacted quickly and got mayor and commission to approve a redo, and we brought it back to the existing striping. So some of you may recall that happening, and that's why the reason is to focus on Barber Street for multi-use path connectivity while maintaining a shared facility here with signage. But again, we're trying to push that bicycle travel to the future Barber Street multi-use path, which we feel it's more adequate and should have less traffic on it anyway.
Okay. Thanks for the history lesson.
Yeah, no problem. I myself had to be educated on what happened. I was not very involved with that project.
Yeah, I don't remember
Definitely,
that at
it's a
all.
great example for when theory does not really work in practice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ronnie. Unless there are any more questions, I want to move us on so we can get through the rest of this. We good?
I don't want to belabor this, but I love the project, and it's great to see it. I'm much more familiar with this area. I am curious about the Oneida area too. I don't need a lot of explanation, but just why I didn't think it would have that much traffic that it would merit a roundabout. It seems to me just from usage that it would make more sense if it was an either or scenario, that a roundabout at the Boulevard Chase intersection would make more sense than there. But I'll just throw that out there. Not really expecting a lot of feedback right now.
Thank you, Craig. All right, let's move on to the next thing, which is other updates from Bike TPW. I'm not sure we have any because we don't have any Stephen on here, but from the Athens in Motion chair, and I'm putting the co-chair in here because Lauren wants to talk to us briefly about an issue with the Firefly, I believe. So I'm going to turn it over to Lauren for a few minutes.
If Lauren, if you'd give me just 2 minutes. Stephen asked me to give an update from TPW and specifically for the position, the bike ped coordinator. Currently it's open. It's going to close next week, by end of next week, and we're hopeful to get some candidates that we can interview and fill this position as soon as we can. And for public comments, Stephen got back with me by text, and there has been none. Carol, you're muted. I am muting you.
When would the bike pedestrian coordinator be in place then, in maybe 2 months, mid-January?
If it could be as soon as mid-December.
Okay.
It could be something, even if we land a good candidate between negotiations and other things that we have to do, it may be January. At this point, we don't know. We're just hopeful that we get good candidates that we can interview, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Back to you, Lauren.
All right. Thank you, Carol. I know this is a jam-packed meeting, but I wanted to bring y'all's attention to actually 2 public comment opportunities. I think you're aware that the Greenway Network Plan is seeking comments now, and that deadline is fast approaching next Monday. And if you haven't had a chance to look at the interactive story and their tool for commenting, please do so, and please share that with others. It is a beautiful document. What I'm loving about this network story is that incorporates not just potential trails, but they have considered Athens in Motion, the Firefly Trail, and other important projects. So they're looking at our trails very holistically. And it provided some insight for me, even, someone who's like, I think I understand like what's going on, but it really helped tie pieces together of what we have, where we're going. And there have been updates made, some removals based on what's, in the Athens in Motion plan. So check out the story. And then the tool to comment is also great because you can click on individual trails and it will take you to a form on that trail. For that trail. So it's a very, visual, it's a great experience. So I would like to encourage y'all to comment there, especially as commissioners, but also to help get the word out. The other thing is a newer opportunity that has come up with regard to the Firefly Trail, and some alternatives that have been presented due to some concerns from property owners. And Carol, either you or Teresa shared this link on our Facebook page, right? So more than just commenting on this, I would like for us to consider taking this over to the Policy and Projects Committee to have a statement about the safety and connectivity of these additional options. And I'm wondering if y'all would be okay with that. The deadline for public comment is January 10th, so we do have a little bit of time.
Yeah, definitely supportive, Lauren. That's a great idea, and I think all of you should go check that out and voice your opinion and encourage others to take a look. And I've been doing that in my network as well, so we get good public input.
Yeah. Lauren and I discussed this, and potentially rerouting that Firefly would be similar to what happened years ago with the Greenway near downtown, where they had to route it up College and then down Willow Street to avoid one property. And from my experience when I used to work for the Greenway, it really killed that section because people didn't even know where it went, and they assumed that the Greenway just ended because it became a glorified sidewalk alongside a road. So now that's back along the river, I should say, because the property owner gave the county the ability to do that, and it's highly used now because that's where the designers originally intended the Greenway to be. So I see a similar situation with the Firefly if it gets rerouted to a busy highway.
Yeah, and we're talking up to 4 crossings of a busy highway, crossings in front of parking lots, multiple driveways that create some of the most dangerous, pedestrian vehicle cycle intersections.
We definitely want to weigh in on that. I didn't like the way it looked. Hearing you explain it that way, I'm more convinced.
So procedurally, do we need a motion to kick that over to Policy and Projects, or can we just kick it over to Policy and Projects and come up with something and share it with the wider group?
Let's just kick it over.
Okay.
I think that's fine. And Aaron, just to clarify, is there only one landowner who has a problem with the Firefly? Okay. I'm not going to take up more time. Yeah, I do also think that's an issue there. So anyway, let's move on, and I'm going to move on to the annual report, which I need to have approved from you guys. I'm on here, and let's see where we are, Chrome. And let's get off of that. Come on, go away, little thingy. All right, there. And I don't know if you all had time to look at this or not. Carol, that's good. Go away. So as I was going through the the bylaws, I saw that we had this annual report. So this was a good time to pull it all together. I want to thank Jake again because his minutes were just so helpful. And basically I went through the year chronologically and pulled together ideas and then pulled together accomplishments. And then I grouped them by a theme thematically. So we have our organizational accomplishments of getting elected, orienting everyone to Athens in Motion, establishing committees, and setting up a documentation center. And thank you, Teresa, for all the work you've done recently, rearranging and organizing that. In addition, we have the different work that we did, like today with the bike and sidewalk projects. And starting from back last year, remember when we had that field trip to Hancock to look at the lane markings, the different walk audits, and the reviewing and voting on this. And I'm going to take this Barber Street out because that's not in there. And submitting a letter and report of a build project. Is this it? Right, yes. And so we've done all these different things that are connected to our bike and sidewalk projects, and heard reviews, and really just like today, we've been, kept up to date with what's going on, whether it's over there on Chase Street or with the Firefly. Moving on to the committee work, we have done, I think this is just an interesting year because we just got ourselves together and then we had COVID as well. And then you had your chair off running for office. So distracted as well. And I want to thank Lauren again for taking over for me during that time. The Communication and Education Committee we did get in a couple of events at the Green Life Expo. If you remember Teresa's wonderful little road design with dolls and such. I hear someone typing there. We had a couple of other presentations. I do want to say that the planning is continuing on the Open Streets event. We had another meeting to talk about a place for that to be, and that's involving leisure services, Bike Athens, and different community members. Teresa and I participated in that. We have our policy work that we've worked very hard on the Complete Streets policy, and remember all our thoughts and reflections on the e-scooters. The Data and Grants Committee have put together some crash data analysis, and I know James has followed up on that just since I was writing this. And you guys have also explored some funding options. We have our ad hoc committee that worked on that process for revision to the Athens in Motion network. Then we've had all of our communications with the mayor and commissioners. Again, it's been really helpful having our Google Drive where all of those items are nice in a nice folder, and I've moved some of them in there as well. And we have received that presentation from Timothy Forward and interaction with the community that way. We have all of us, some of us more, some of us less, done continuing education, learning either from like Hillary about funding, the information we got from the police department, learning about the Bulldog Bike Share program, which seems to be in pause, and different individual efforts that we've done doing webinars and such. And I have a list of recommendations here, and basically they're sort of just follow up from last year as I was going through the minutes, seeing different things to do. Probably the most significant one, I guess, up here is to evaluate the composition of the AIM Commission, and that's something that could be Lauren or whoever becomes chair could follow up with. Also meeting with planning department to better understand the relationship between Athens in Motion and alternative transportation, complete streets, and what goes on with the planning department in private developments and guidelines that we have, which of course gets onto us needing to finish our complete streets policy. I want to bring this one up again, number 4. I was going through the notes and saw that Mayor Gertz had talked to us about the possibility of looking at impact fees, developing something in that area to consider. So that might be something. I have a very, very minor thing of getting business cards. And there are some more options down here, and I'm going to stop reading them because I have no idea if anyone's like looking at them all. But just some follow-up from last year. Have a section for expenses, which we don't have, and that sort of puts everything together. I also included in here the budget for this coming year that Teresa put together. I made some slight changes and sort of grouping and added on some money for business cards, if that's okay, Teresa. And I'd like to submit that as well when I submit this report to Mayor Gertz and the commissioners. Does anyone have any comments here? I will. Any comments for me here?
Yes, Carol, this is beautiful. I feel so much more productive than I thought we were with COVID. So thank you for taking the time to compile our annual report. One thing I wonder if it's worth adding is taking a street or a roadway and running it through our new process of evaluating it to be added to the Athens in Motion plan.
So putting that down here in terms of next steps, initiate. I could initiate. What is it? What did we call that thing? Project proposal. Athens Motion Network addition or revision process, and I can work on that wording when I'm offline. But we understand. Is that what you're talking about, Lauren?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'll work on that again on that wording so it'll make sense. Does anyone else have any questions, concerns, comments, and if not, would someone like to make a motion to accept this and approve it so that I can send it on to our mayor as required in our bylaws?
I'll make a motion to approve this annual report.
I will second it. That's Lauren. Second.
I will say that what we're calling that thing is the project revision process.
Yes. You know, the stress of being online here. All the terms aren't coming back.
We have so many eyes on us right now.
Yes, so many eyes. Oh, look, there's a young eye. Okay, that's good. Okay, let's have a vote then. All in favor of approving this annual report?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, nays?
Going back off screen.
We're all good. All right, good. So then the annual report has been accepted, and we will move on to the election, Athens in Motion elections, because I also saw when looking over that report that we needed to have an election. I thought it would be good because I'm rolling off of this thing, I guess officially in December. So let's roll someone all in. Lauren has self-nominated, which is great because I didn't feel like I should that's what I wanted to happen. And then Aaron seconded that. So do we have any other nominations to take over as chair? Lauren, would you like to make a statement?
Can I just say, would it be helpful for us to nominate her rather than she self-nominate? I mean, I feel like that we had kind of hoped or assumed that to happen. Does that make better sense because I'd be happy to nominate her just so it's like not, rather than self-nominate.
Sure. Go ahead.
I'd be delighted to second that nomination.
Okay, we'll just forget about Aaron's nomination. Second up through there. We'll have it during the meeting. Lauren, would you like to say anything?
Oh, Carol, you are some big shoes to fill. I'm glad to have you on the Athens-Clarke County Mayor and Commission, though, because we'll have a great ally. And I look forward to keeping things rolling with Athens in Motion. This is a great group.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna need someone to like, you know, have some coffee with me and go over these these alternative options. So I'm really ready when it comes to the meetings, because it is a lot to digest. And I think we've been working really well together. So, shall we have a vote then? All in favor of voting Lauren in as the new chair of Athens in Motion? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, no nays. Nays? Okay, that voted in. You are the new chair, Lauren. Voted unanimously. Okay, which leaves the vice chair position available and open. Do we have anyone who would like to, you know, these would like to nominate someone for this position? Or nominate themselves?
I'll nominate myself, but that doesn't mean I'm saying that someday I want to be chair.
I was just saying I was going to nominate Teresa. So
Yeah.
Thanks. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Okay, Aaron, so you would like to nominate Teresa as vice chair?
Can I second?
Second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mark. All in favor of voting for Teresa as vice chair? Yay. Any nays? Okay, the yays have it, and Teresa is the new vice chair. And I will say, I did feel really wonderful having Lauren to work with. So I'm excited. I feel like I'm leaving you guys in good hands. Any of you are good hands there. Okay, so we are moving through there. So then that's 5:45. See, now we're ahead of schedule, guys. That's good. Let's move on to the check-in. I'm just having a brief check-in here with our different committees.
Wait, don't vote for secretary?
I think that's in place already. I mean, that was just a replacement, Jake.
Nobody else wants to be
I
secretary?
think they're 2-year positions.
Oh, all right.
Would you like?
You're
to
so good
resign?
at it, Jake.
You should give lessons. You're so good on it. Do you do this for the Greenway as well?
No.
Okay.
I
thought you did.
No, I'm the vice chair of the Greenway Commission.
Okay.
But I would have to say that I have not done any of my other homework this month, other than the minutes. So all of these compliments are making me just feel guilty about that.
Homework? Any homework in any of the areas of your life? Okay. So the grants and data committee, would someone from that committee like to say anything or say they don't have anything to say?
Well, I don't have anything to say unless James has something to add. Maybe about the cool heat maps you put up.
What's that?
All right. Sorry, I'm having a sit a child in my lap. Yeah, I guess just about the heat maps real quick. If anybody has any requests for further information or changes to that, just go ahead and email me, and I hope you guys are finding them useful. If there's an issue with usability, like we kind of worked through with Lauren earlier today, that was just like a permissions issue. And so that's easy to fix. We don't have some of the data that you might be looking for. I haven't heard anybody ask for some data that we actually don't have in the crash reports. Nothing. But just email me if you have any further questions or need for further data.
So are we trying to keep this just with our group? I mean, I know this is a public meeting, but are we just trying to keep this internal right now? Or if I wanted to like share this with the commissioner, is that appropriate? Or are we holding back on that?
I mean, so to make it available to you all, it is a public facing map right now, and all of those data are through 2015 to 2019, so it's relatively old data. You know, there's nothing from this year. That would be something that I would try to plan to do at the beginning of next year. So I don't know, maybe if somebody else has any reason why we couldn't share this map, I really can't see a reason not to share it. I know that there's an ongoing data project to clean the data that we would probably reload that map with cleaner data if we found some issues with the data that's in it right now. But that data that's in it right now is straight from crash reports from either ACC, PD, or the Georgia State Patrol.
Well, I thank you for, I mean, going up to 2019, that feels really recent to me. So it feels super relevant, and it's very helpful when I'm imagining conversations I'm going to have with our elected officials.
Well, I'm embedded in day-to-day COVID-19 data, so actually hour to hour when we're talking about what's coming out of our schools.
Thank you, James. Okay, someone from the policy committee, would you like to give an update?
Yes, we're still working on the Complete Streets policy. We have 2 more sections to review as a group. We were hoping to get to work with the Diversity Inclusion Office on language, because we want to have consistent language that reflects what we're trying to do with this policy. Haven't heard back yet, so probably follow up with Crystal. And then now we have a letter to write about the alternatives to the Firefly Trail.
Great. Thank you. And finally, education and communications. Teresa, do you have anything to put in tonight?
For once, I don't have anything to say.
Thank you, Teresa. I mean, for your comments, of course. And finally, just before we adjourn for the evening, I just wanted to, next meeting is not, it says January 26th. Actually, I wanted to ask you all, I thought maybe while we're here and we've moved through here so quickly, we're ahead of schedule now. Do you all, Lauren, want to have a meeting in December?
Yeah, I would like to have a meeting, since I'm hoping to have something to share with y'all about this Firefly letter.
Do you guys want to set a date while we're here before we leave? I mean, I'm not really sure when I'm not here anymore, but I mean, the 4th Tuesday is December 22nd.
Yeah, does that work with y'all? I'm still around. Who does that not work with? Does that not work with staff? Do we know?
Let's see.
Okay.
Let me see. Yeah, I think it works with UGA staff. I could also do the 15th if that's more convenient for anybody.
Either way, I'm here.
I'll be in California with my children, I hope. So I'm going to do my very best to be on the WebEx.
Yeah, it looks like I think T-SPLOS had moved our meeting to the week before, so we could try for the 15th.
Will you be here on the 15th, Teresa?
I might be in the car. We might drive to California, but I'm going to, if I have my cell phone connection, then I will try to come on in. I'll do the best I can to be there. But I'm just saying that it may or may not work.
James says the 22nd is better for him. 22nd is also better for me because I can procrastinate on the minutes as long as possible.
I can do the 22nd.
22nd is probably better for me.
Okay, so we'll keep with the 22nd. Carol, so we have a vacancy now, so that affects our quorum. Who's gonna
Well, I could probably still be here the 22nd, and I'll send something on I'll look at those, because I think I'm supposed to send something on to Gene Spratland about that. So I'm not, no one has said to me anything, officially from Athens-Clarke County. So I'm assuming that I don't go on till the 6th or the 5th of January. So in terms of the quorum and the Complete Streets policy, I could probably participate in the next one, but I'll let you take over as the chair. How about that? Sound good? Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Is there anything else? We're good? All right. Jake for the minutes. It's 5:44 and we are adjourning. All in favor? All right.
Aye.
We've got a lot done. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Sorry about the disruption.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you all.
Bye.
Bye.